The Air Canada controversy continues to get lots of play locally, and I would say it's because too many politicians and apologists tried to pretend that there wasn't some valid points being made, and instead went after Air Canada. Today, Sean Atleo, who I believe is the Grand Chief, has insisted on an apology from Air Canada, and they should be building bridges to the Aboriginal community. Screw off! The Aboriginal leadership should be building their own bridges to the members of their own community, as well as others who are non-Aboriginal, by the way, who make up the derelicts, bums, petty criminals, addicts that are populating the streets of downtown Winnipeg, particularly east of Donald, and wreaking havoc. Now, downtown spinners in crime denial. This is an essential part of the narrative. Now, I say it's an essential part of the narrative because Brian Kelsey is no dummy, frequently having appeared on our program. What am I looking for here? Oh, geez, the way he's got it set up, this is not so easy to find everything. All right, I'll have to find it the old-fashioned way on the newspaper page itself. Kelsey puts out, and this is going to be in two parts, because this isn't just what he wrote in the pages of the Free Press, it's also what he wrote on his blog. And I'll get into the reaction of our group on Facebook as well. Winnipeg politics isn't divided between left and right. It's divided between those who want to fix Winnipeg's problems and those who think spin is a better solution. Well, he got that right. Recently, Air Canada decided it would no longer put its flight crews at the downtown Radisson because downtown is unsafe. Those who attack the decision as unfair fall comfortably into the spinners' camp. It's not as though Air Canada's decision, he writes, fell from the sky. Several small businesses fled downtown in recent years, complaining bitterly of drunken fights, stabbings, broken windows, aggressive panhandlers, and other troubles. Last month, the owner of a promising new downtown business posted online about the staggering, in quotes, frequency of public urination nearby. I'm not sure which online posting that was. I'm sorry I missed it. Then he brings up Discreet Boutique closing down. Mayor Cates insisted Air Canada's decision must be really about money. Am I the only one who sees a disconnect here? Only in Winnipeg could a supposedly pro-business mayor get re-elected on an anti-crime platform, then breezily attack businesses for complaining about crime less than a year later. Running a city on spin inevitably generates similar contradictions. Only months ago, downtown biz director Stefano Grande insisted downtown needed both a police cadet corps and a biz patrol. One or the other was not enough. He frequently lobbies for beat cops and rightly wonders why we don't have a crime prevention plan with measurable targets. We've talked about this target thing before. It's going to come back in a second here. Yet if someone dares suggest downtown has a safety problem, Grande cranks up the outrage meter. Without irony, he cited crime stat to prove there's no downtown crime problem after all. Kelsey goes on to give 3 examples from this current year. A man assaulting 2 police cadets downtown. A man being stabbed downtown. A man stabbed downtown in September. All 3 in the 300 block of Portage. That would be Air Canada's offices, right? Carlton. What do these crimes and hundreds of others like them have in common? Not one of them is publicly reported on a crime stat. Non-fatal stabbings, assaults, and arsons aren't mapped, nor are sexual assaults in which the attacker knows the victim. Now, here's one I had no idea about. Charges laid under Winnipeg's much-hyped but rarely used panhandling bylaw aren't reported either. Crime stat's very selective, isn't it? Crimes against persons are summarized. He relies on 2009, which isn't very recent. In the past, those numbers were released in the summer of the following year. It's probably coincidence. The report's release was delayed until months later, 2 years in a row, both of them election years. In any other city, business groups would demand up-to-date mapping of crimes against persons on crime stat to spur governments to act. The downtown biz thinks it's convincing us by spinning sugar-coated statistics instead. Incidentally, lining up able-bodied men to say they feel safe. And I don't know which interview, this must be a TV interview I missed. But Kelsey makes an excellent point. Lining up able-bodied men to say they, quote, feel safe when petite flight attendants, young mothers, trapped retail workers, and weak seniors are regular targets for abuse isn't kidding anybody either. Dear Stefano, dear Sam, you can't have it both ways. You can't demand an endless stream of new cops, new laws, and new equipment on one hand, and then insist there's no crime problem for them to solve on the other. And then Brian Kelsey, taking the hammer in one hand and the nail in the other. I often eat breakfast at the downtown Radisson. I get great service there, but my appreciation for downtowns, nice typo, Free Press, doesn't change the fact that I've seen Air Canada crews, I'm going to repeat this, Brian Kelsey says, I've seen Air Canada crews run a gauntlet of belligerent drunks at the hotel more times than I can remember. The only surprise here is that Air Canada didn't leave before. And speaking of before, it's no secret at least one prior owner of the Radisson begged City Hall to fight public drunkenness on that corner years ago. Little has changed since, which might explain why Mayor Cates is so keen to focus on Air Canada's motives, so eager to shift attention away from the problems he was re-elected to solve. Kelsey then put up a blog post on his stateofthecity.ca blog. Which I'm just making sure to capture the URL of. Unlike other more wonkish pieces I've written for our local broadsheet, this one seems to have hit a bit of a chord. The fate of too many otherwise promising businesses in our local downtown will be decided not by the creativity of their managers, the quality of their products. Instead, businesses will die simply because of the real conditions of fear that fester around them. One critic in the Free Press Online comments focused exclusively on public drunkenness as though this was my only issue. They should have caught the words assault, fight, stabbing, arson, sexual assault, harassment, and so forth. The problem isn't drunkenness per se. Countless thousands of Winnipeggers stumble out of various exchange district bars in a state of inebriation without ever stopping to kick, shove, punch, or stab one another. The issue isn't booze, it's the consequences of booze. Habitual drunkenness downtown, often in daylight by habitual drinkers, manifests itself through abusive efforts to find easy cash to buy more booze. It's important to note, and this in case anybody ever says that I don't know what I'm talking about, I blow things out of proportion, that I don't speak the truth. Well, I guess me and Brian Kelsey both. Winnipeg's panhandlers, he writes, are typically far more threatening than in other cities with this challenge in mind. They routinely move in groups of 2, 3, or even more, literally blockading passers-by in walkways or sidewalks to get the desired result. This is first and foremost an alarming social problem, as most of the panhandlers in question are full-time street people who've fallen into ugly habits and could use our help to break those habits. But there's also a problem for public spaces. When drunks get violent, the public safety must take total priority over the afflictions of the attacker. No matter how much we may sympathize with the latter, drunkenness isn't the only cause of the alarming violence on Winnipeg streets. Gang conflict is probably more common, but it's enough of a cause that it must be part of any honest discussion of the issue. Frankly, if there's one kind of crime that concerns me most in Winnipeg, it's stabbings. I noted in the article that non-fatal stabbings aren't even tracked in the city's public crime stat report. I'm waiting for someone to offer to do something about that. I won't wait long. And there, between the newspaper column, the op-ed piece, and on his blog, what have we learned? We have somebody who used to work for the mayor who's an eyewitness to Air Canada crews running the gauntlet, to belligerent drunks, to how they gang up on the weak and the meek and the defenseless, about how they abuse their ability to control public spaces to get a desired result. And to me, most importantly, the public safety must take total priority, not partial priority, not get favored, total priority over the afflictions of the attacker, no matter how much we may sympathize with the latter. Brian Kelsey is 100% correct.